We'll start it off with the vacant IBC Super Middleweight Championship, and Steve Little out of Reading, Pennsylvania is in the ring tonight. A lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, he is from Reading, Pennsylvania. He was instrumental in bringing this whole promotion here to this town, so he wore several hats. Steve Little is a very experienced boxer. As you look at him, former super middleweight champion of the world. He has fought literally everybody who counts at 160 or 168 pounds. Comes in here off a good 12-round win, and he is hoping to put his other distractions aside as promoter and concentrate on being a boxer. Across the way, you look at a man who came in here on 1.5 weeks' notice. Originally, Little was supposed to fight Darren Zenner. Velasquez, who was sparring with Simon Brown to get him ready for his match tonight, filled in the breach. He had lost his last time out to Raphael Williams, a pretty good fighter, but he had beat Williams the time before that.
We are set for 2 championship bouts tonight from Reading, Pennsylvania. For the introductions, here's our ring announcer, Mark Biro.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Reading Municipal Stadium in beautiful Reading, Pennsylvania, for an evening of championship boxing on ESPN. Under the promotion of Arthur Palulo's Banner Promotions, in association with Budweiser, proud to be your bud. Tonight's bouts are under the auspices of the Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission, the attending chairman this evening, NFL Hall of Famer Chuck Bednarik, Commissioner George Bacchetto, and attending executive director, the gregarious Greg Sir. This is your first bout of the evening. It is scheduled for 12 rounds for the vacant IBC Super Middleweight Championship of the world. Ring officials assigned by the International Boxing Council, President Joseph Blackie Gennaro, the attending supervisor, Debbie Jones. Your judges at ringside are, from Hillside, New Jersey, Larry Hazard Jr., from Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, Tony Wolf, and from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, George Hill. Your referee for this event, also from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, John Carroll. Introducing now the principals first. In the blue corner to my left, wearing the green trunks, black trim, el hijo de Santo Domingo en la República Dominicana, now making his home in Manhattan, New York. He weighs in at 167¼ pounds. His professional record, 22 victories, 11 defeats. He has 1 draw and 11 wins by way of knockout. Introducing Joaquin Velasquez. His opponent in the red corner, wearing the All-American Stars and Stripes trunks. From Reading, Pennsylvania. He also weighs in at 167¼ pounds. His professional record, 23 victories, 14 defeats. He has 2 draws and 5 wins by way of knockout. Here is the former WBA Super Middleweight Champion of the world, Steve Little. 12 rounds for the IBC Super Middleweight Championship of the world.
Let's take a look at the rules as governed by the IBC. 3 knockdown rule in effect. There is no standing 8 count. Fighter cannot be saved by the bell. Only the referee may stop the fight. An accidental foul after 3 rounds. They will go to the scorecards. Steve Little and Joaquin Velasquez for the vacant IBC Super Middleweight Championship. Steve Little, the former WBA Super Middleweight Champion, has been in with the best in the world, Al.
He literally has been. I mean, he's fought the likes of Terry Norris and Pipino Cuevas, Tyrone Trice. You go right down the list of great Michael Nunn, Frank Lyles. In fact, he won the title from Michael Nunn and lost it to Frank Lyles, the super middleweight title. He has really fought the best in his division.
Early in his career, even fought Mark Freeland, took a loss in that one. Velasquez, a world traveler. He has had fights in the Dominican Republic, Italy, Switzerland, Michigan, Maine, and Little putting on pressure, scoring with double lefts.
Steve Little is not a knockout puncher, period. And yet look at him go after Velasquez.
Little has never recorded a first-round knockout. In fact, his last knockout was 5 years and 8 months ago against Mike Brown, 1991.
Velasquez, who took this bout on a week and a half's notice, but is in excellent condition because, as I said at the top of the show, he was sparring with Simon Brown to get him ready. So Steve Little coming out in an uncharacteristically aggressive fashion.
And of Velasquez's 11 losses, 4 have been by knockout fashion. Nazario Mariotti, Michael Dale, Charles Brewer, and Lamar Parks all knocked him out.
And Lamar Parks, of course, was a terrific middleweight. Steve Little landed the jab and the hook with impunity here. He is a very good technician, Steve Little. Mentioned he won the title from Michael Nunn and then lost it to Frank Lyles, a big, tall lefty who's a very talented fighter. Little doesn't feel he was in the best of shape for that bout. Feels like he'd like another shot at that title.
Velasquez very awkward in his punching style, seems to leave himself off balance quite a bit.
And he is leaving himself wide open for the left hook, which has never been a big staple in the Steve Little attack. But boy, it's there tonight, isn't it? This is an excellent first round. There's the hook again.
And then a right hand follows. Steve Little putting on a show here in round 1.
I'd have bet you $1,000 that we would not see a first round like this out of either of these boxers. But Steve Little, in front of his hometown crowd here in Reading, going right after Joaquin Velasquez.
Final 30 seconds of round 1.
We mentioned that Steve Little was instrumental in bringing this promotion to Reading. He helped convince everybody to do it, was integrally involved in the promotion, and really only a couple of weeks ago did he really get down to the business of concentrating on his bout as a boxer.
A steady diet of left hands from Steve Little has knocked around Joaquin Velasquez here in round 1. Scheduled for 12 on ESPN. Round number 2 underway. Steve Little out of Reading, Pennsylvania, and Joaquin Velasquez fighting out of Manhattan by way of the Dominican Republic, fighting for the vacant IBC Super Middleweight Championship, and round number 1 dominated by Little.
Steve Little came out in very uncharacteristic fashion. He landed 59% of his power shots in round 1, 23 of 38. But Velasquez landed 68% of his power punches, 15 of 22. So both men, neither known as huge punchers, came out blazing in round 1.
In Little's career, he has recorded 2 second-round knockouts. But with 5 knockouts in 39 fights, punching is not his strength, punching power. Velasquez has 2 himself.
Little had to lose a pound at the weigh-in. He came in a pound overweight, and it took him a little while to do that. Nice right hand by Velasquez. That got his attention, but then countering with the left hook is Little.
And Little has been feasting on that left hook through the first round in 1 minute.
Well, we anticipated when we knew that Little was fighting Darren Zenner, who's also a very active boxer who's willing to mix it up, that it would be an interesting bout. But Velasquez has made it so himself.
These two have one common opponent. Velasquez lost a 10-round decision to John Jackson. Little was knocked out by Jackson in an 8-round bout.
The former WBO champion, who's a very talented and good fighter. I guess if you're talented, you would be good also.
Yeah, that would help.
I was redundant but accurate. Great.
Go ahead, Al.
Great setting here for this bout, and a very enthusiastic crowd. And right now, that crowd is lifting Steve Little and is making him fight, I think, more aggressively than he normally does.
Here we are outdoors at the Reading Municipal Stadium, home of the Reading Phillies, the Phillies AA squad.
Come on, let him go, break! Come on, get out.
About rain. Anytime you stage something outside, but it is a beautiful night, very comfortable, not cool, so the boxer's able to work up a sweat early.
We've seen Little use the jab in this round. Now Velasquez trying to get that punch underway. It is a staple of Little's attack normally.
This has been a pretty good round for Velasquez.
Nice right hand by Velasquez. They told us they're working with him to be a better boxer on the outside, and we're seeing evidence of that here.
Closing seconds of round number 10. Steve Little and Joaquin Velasquez for the vacant IBC Super Middleweight Championship.
You see the work of Little with the left hook. Very effective. Velasquez, though, able to get his shots in on the inside as well in a very close round.
Round number 3 underway, and Littles comes out charging, but Velasquez able to counter. And after getting rocked in round number 1, Joaquin Velasquez has settled down.
Well, working there. Break, I got you.
Al, some numbers from round 2.
Well, we see Velasquez with a very, very slight edge, and I ended up giving him the round based upon his punches maybe being a few more in the power variety. Little is boxing a match which really is not his normal style. He's being more aggressive. Normally, he is very much a boxer-puncher. He's become more of a puncher in this match. And you have to wonder, Bob, if that's not just because the crowd is enthusiastic for him, but also because maybe he isn't trained as well as he would like to be because of all the distractions and doesn't know if he can go 12 strong rounds.
Well, 29 of his 39 fights have gone the distance. That's Steve Little. He has scored 5 knockouts and has been put away 5 times via the knockout.
Mentioned that Velasquez, nice right by Steve Little. He's got more power in his right hand than his left hook, but he's been forced to throw the left hook more because that's what Velasquez has been giving him in this round, in this match.
Keep him up, Steve.
At 31, Steve Little believes he's got one more chance to get back into the championship hunt. If he can string a couple wins together, he feels that that's a possibility, and it probably is.
He has the name, he has the reputation, he's been in with the best in the world. And Velasquez puts his punches together with 50 seconds to go in round 3.
They've worked on Velasquez on the outside. You see evidence of it. He is pumping a pretty good left jab. There's the hook again.
Well, Little has had so much success with the left hand. Velasquez is so awkward, it's hard to tell if he's hurt. He snaps off the left of his own.
It is intriguing to watch Steve Little alter his style because of what Velasquez is giving him. He's not the kind of guy to just stand there and get ready to crank up left hooks, but Steve is a very intelligent man and a very intelligent boxer, and he sees that that's what's in front of him, and so he's going for it.
Round number 3 coming to an end from Reading, Pennsylvania. Steve Little and Joaquin Velasquez for the vacant IBC Super Middleweight Championship. Event, the WBO Middleweight Championship. Lonnie Bradley defends his title against veteran Simon Brown. Bradley 24-0 with 19 knockouts.
Now, you know if you hit him with a left hook.
Well, you can see up to 100 great college football games not on TV in your area from ESPN's Game Plan. Only $69 for the season. Call your cable operator or DirecTV. And if you love college football, folks, ESPN's Game Plan is the way to go. We begin round number 4 of this 12-round IBC Super Middleweight Championship bout between Steve Little of Reading, Pennsylvania in the red, white, and blue trunks and Joaquin Velasquez, 32 years of age, from the Dominican Republic. And now this has been a very interesting fight at this point. Little has had a lot of success with the left hook early on, but Velasquez is very sneaky.
He is indeed. He's a better defensive fighter probably than somebody might give him credit for just looking at him because he's very awkward.
Little has had a lot of success in this bout with his left hand, whether it's the jab or the hook.
The jab of Velasquez has been very, very effective. He's landed 14 of 31 jabs in round 3, and that's an indication that that he's getting that punch in. And interestingly, Zenner, who would have been here boxing Steve Little, has a very good jab, and his jab would have probably been an effective weapon for him against Steve Little as well.
Little with a right hand over the top. This will be a very interesting fight to be scored.
Oh, it will indeed. Because even though Steve Little has done some very good work with that hook, Velasquez is starting to establish the jab and counter a little bit with the right hand as well. Now, if you out-jab Steve Little, who relies a lot on the jab, you're going to get some things done against him.
Conditioning will be a factor. Little mentioning that it wasn't until 2 weeks ago that he really focused in on the fight because he was handling the promotion and bringing this bout here. Velasquez taking the fight on just 10 days' notice, although he had been sparring with Simon Brown. You know, it's interesting because it's one thing to spar, but the next thing to know that you actually are preparing for a fight.
And, of course, he was boxing a very different style boxer in Simon Brown than Little is. Little is a stand-up boxer.
Approaching the final half minute of round 4. It's almost like both boxers are trying to figure out what's next. They showed some kind of game plan early, and now they're sort of trying to figure out what do we do next.
And Steve Little is thinking to himself, now I can jab and get away with it here, but can I sustain that over the next 8 rounds?
Final 4 seconds of round number 4. Reading, Pennsylvania. Bob Papa along with Al Bernstein. We begin round number 5 on ESPN's Championship Boxing. The vacant IBC Super Middleweight Championship at stake. Steve Little in the red, white, and blue trunks. Joaquin Velasquez in the green and black trunks in what has turned out to be a very intriguing fight, Al.
After a terrific beginning in round 1 by Little, in which he dominated the round, it has been a much better performance for Joaquin Velasquez in the last several rounds.
The numbers through round 4.
And you take a look, Velasquez has evened things up considerably.
Very close, and this will be an interesting fight for the judges because round 2 was very close, could have gone either way. Round 3 and 4 were both very close.
They were indeed, and Velasquez with an edge in jabs in round 4, landing 7 more than Little. That's important for him to get the jab out there. And they told us when we talked to he and his people that they were working on him being a better outside boxer, and he has been that.
I have it dead even at this point through 4, 2-2.
And that is exactly the way I have it scored. Velasquez has a big reach, a 73-inch reach, so he can box from the outside. He can do it, and they have been working on that skill with him, and it has paid dividends here. Now, here's a different Steve Little than we saw in round 1. Now he's jabbing, being on the outside. He's not really looking to dictate the action as he did in round 1.
I also think Velasquez has done something to tighten up his defense as far as eating that left hand.
He is working well on the inside, Velasquez. And the question we have to ask about Steve Little, how much of a toll did it take on him to be so actively involved in getting this promotion here? He said people are calling him and asking him questions, what to do. And he may not have been able to concentrate on his boxing as much as he wanted.
And, you know, it took him 1 hour to lose the 1 pound. Normally for boxers, that's easy to take off. But at the weigh-in last night, it took him a while to get that 1 pound off.
Both men working very well here on the inside.
Go, Steve, go. The champ here in Reading for the hometown hero, Steve Little.
And he lands a good short right hand on the inside. It's a misnomer to think that because he boxes mostly on the outside, he can't work on the inside, and he is doing it well. He just doesn't do it with a lot of power.
Round number 5 coming to a conclusion. This is a very tight fight between Steve Little and Joaquin Velasquez. And 1 point being taken away from Velasquez. Joaquin Velasquez has a point taken away for low blows. Referee John Carroll says he gave him 3 warnings and deducted a point in round 5. I never saw one.
As we look at Velasquez, that point could have a big impact, obviously. But yes, we did not see the warnings, but presumably the referee, as he looked at talking to Peter Kahn in the corner, said, I gave him 3 warnings. Well, they were subtle warnings.
Round number 6 underway. Now, it's one thing when a boxer's in a clinch or something where the referee will say, hey, keep him up or something. But normally, when they're going to give an actual warning, they demonstrate it to everybody, including the judges, that I'm giving you a warning for this infraction.
And that is just so that people are not suspicious when points are taken away.
Take a look at some of the numbers from round number 5.
Velasquez having himself a good round, and so with that point being taken away, it ends up being an even round. He was working very well. A lot of those punches he landed were body shots, and I think many were legal, though maybe some did stray low. Those are good body shots, and the referee just told him keep him up. No reason to worry about those. They were totally legal. They're going to make Velasquez not want to throw to the body.
No punching. Watch him spinning it out.
That's the problem, because if he feels he's landing clean shots to the body and being told to keep him up, well, now he's operating on a finer margin.
Keep them up. Keep them up. Keep them up.
Now, there we get here another warning from referee John Carroll.
Now, that one may have strayed a little bit low, but I don't think that was deliberate either. Now, let me tell you something about what Velasquez has done well in this bout and what he might want to go back to and forget about the body shots for a while is the jab. He used the jab very well, and he was able to outbox a little bit with the jab.
Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm going to work on that, and I'll be back to you on it.
1 minute to go in round number 6. Joaquin Velasquez has made a very good showing, taking this fight on just 10 days' notice. Little has only recorded 1 knockout. Past round 4, it was a 10th round knockout.
Well, the change in opponent from Darren Zenner to Velasquez, Steve Little said, shouldn't have any impact on me. Everything that could happen to you in boxing has happened to me, but maybe it has made an impact on him.
Final 20 seconds of round 6. This bout is scheduled for 12. The vacant IBC Super Middleweight Championship on the line. Steve Little and Joaquin Velasquez from Reading, Pennsylvania on ESPN's Championship Boxing.
Here's the bell.
It's Boxer Up here at Reading's Municipal Stadium, home of the Reading Phillies, the AA team of Philadelphia. But Steve Little of Reading, Pennsylvania, fighting in his hometown for the vacant IBC Super Middleweight Championship against Joaquin Velasquez. And now this has been a very interesting fight as we embark upon round number 7.
It has indeed been a good one, and of course that's our main event still to come. Lonnie Bradley and Simon Brown for the WBO middleweight crown, currently held by Lonnie Bradley. By the way, I want to thank you and Dave Von Temple for the nice mention you made of Ray Shore, my father-in-law, who happened to have been the head scout of the Phillies, who passed away, and I had to take a little hiatus from ESPN Boxing, but I'm happy to be back.
Pleasure to have you back. It's ironic, sort of, that we're at the Phillies AA ballpark.
It's strange. Life moves in strange ways.
Meanwhile, Steve Little trying to recapture that magic of round 1 in which he was able to double and triple up with the left hand and hurt Joaquin Velasquez.
Little showing some power now, and he may need to because Velasquez has shown the ability to box from the outside against him. There's the hook.
That left hand landed flush. Little has never recorded a 6th round knockout. Only has 5 in his career, so that would seem likely.
And interestingly, here in this round, you see why Steve Little really doesn't get that many knockouts. While he has enough pop in his punch to stun you and occasionally maybe hurt you, He's not a great finisher.
But he has had one in round 10, and that's probably more from an accumulation of punches.
Work out. Get out yourselves. Get out.
Inactive round for Velasquez out.
He's done very little. I think a part of it is he's not sure what to do now. He's worried about going to the body because of the point being taken away and the cautioning by referee John Carroll. And Little also has altered a little bit what he's done. He's moving a little bit more and jabbing more often.
And that point could be so crucial because both you and I think this is a very close bout.
Yeah, I have Velasquez up by a point, I believe, as you do. But this is a very nice round for Steve Little.
And although Velasquez was able to duck away from most of those shots, Little's still able to land at least one.
Velasquez trying to make Little come to him now and counterpunch. He's starting to counter pretty well. You know, as I watch Velasquez here, he's a great sparring partner for Simon Brown to get ready for Lonnie Bradley. Tall, angular, can move like this.
Closing seconds of round 7, scheduled for 12. A good one from Reading, Pennsylvania. Bob Popo along with Al Bernstein. We get set for the start of round number 8. The vacant IBC Super Middleweight Championship on the line. Steve Little in the red, white, and blue. Joaquin Velasquez in the green trunks. And a very strong round 7 for Little.
This bout has played itself out in several acts. The first act was Steve Little being very effective and aggressive in round 1. Then Velasquez coming back with some good jabbing and body work. And then in the third act, a point being deducted from Velasquez and the good round from Little getting him back into the picture.
You and I see this thing as dead even.
And that is owing in large measure to that 1 point being taken away. Steve Little is blinking his eyes a lot. Bob, I don't know if maybe some kind of coagulant or something burning got into his eyes, but it looks like they're bothering him.
Several rounds ago, near the end of one of the rounds, it looked like he may have been poked in his left eye. But until now, we've seen no effects of that.
Steve Little had a couple of years off after he lost the title to Frank Lyles in 1994. He was off till March of '96. Had a contract dispute with Don King, who's the man who has been promoting him. But now he's back in action.
Well, he's trying to load up with that left hand.
It is intriguing because that's something that became available to him early in this bout. And it's alien to his nature to just do that, to crank up left hooks, yet he's seen that it's effective, so he's doing it. Some blood from the mouth of Velasquez. He's been hit with some pretty good shots now.
One minute to go in round number 8. Velasquez has been very cagey. Looks like he's hurt, and he'll fire back with a good combination. Effective jab at certain points. Not punching as frequently.
Break, no punch, a break.
Steve Little has found a way, I think, to neutralize the Velasquez jab. He's getting his jab off first in most instances, and so the jab that was working so well for Joaquin in the previous rounds has been less effective.
Seems like both boxers are kind of just cruising through this round 8.
Tough round to score.
Could surely make this one even. For lack of a lot of action. Round number 8 coming to an end. Scheduled for 12. Back in our main event, 33-year-old Simon Brown challenging Lonnie Bradley for Bradley's WBO middleweight championship. Brown, the former IBF and WBC welterweight champion, the former WBC junior middleweight champion, 45-5 with 32 career knockouts. Now he says he's ready for one more run.
Shooting for his 4th world championship, and at 33 he thinks he's got one more run left in him. This man at 31 feels like he would like to get another shot of the world title. He formerly held the super middleweight crown.
Round number 9 underway in the scheduled 12-round bout between Steve Little and Joaquin Velasquez. At stake, the IBC's vacant super middleweight crown. Still good, left and right from Velasquez.
Steve Little is not the kind of boxer that likes to be pinned against the ropes. Not too many do, but some are adept at counter-punching off it. Little works better when he's in the center of the ring. There's the spin move that gets him there.
Much more aggressive Velasquez, Al, here in the early parts of round 9.
Well, he must know that we're in the later portions of a close fight, and he does not reside in Reading, Pennsylvania. Steve Little does, so he has to know that he's got to make things happen.
Take a look at the numbers through 8 rounds of action.
Velasquez with a very small lead, and when you have anything under a 20 or 25 punch lead, it means that in terms of rounds, it could go either way, because remember, you might win one round by 7 punches, lose the next by 3, so you never know. It's all, even though you see total punches that with one guy ahead, the other guy could be leading.
Well, the percentages were equal, and that just illustrates how close this bout has been. Little got off to the fast start. Velasquez had some good rounds. Then Little sort of surged back. And let's not forget, Velasquez lost a point for a low blow in round number 5. And it was sort of a mystery to us because we had never heard referee John Carroll make demonstrative warnings to Velasquez. And suddenly, near the end of round 5, he just deducted a point.
And it has also made Velasquez much more timid about going downstairs to the body of Little.
Go, Steve, go, the chant. We haven't heard that in several rounds as they try to rally around the hometown hero, Steve Little.
And there have been lulls in that crowd support only because there have been moments in this bout where things have gotten a little slow, although I think it's been a very entertaining bout by and large. There's a low blow by Velasquez. That one really was low. But I give John Carroll credit for not jumping in there to do something dramatic.
Sometimes a low blow occurs because the man getting hit makes a sudden turn.
That's right. It's not always intentional.
Final seconds of round 9. Very tight bout between Steve Little and Joaquin Velasquez. Hope you're enjoying it on ESPN's Championship Boxing. 10 underway from Reading, Pennsylvania. Steve Little and Joaquin Velasquez. This one's scheduled for 12 for the vacant IBC Super Middleweight Championship. Don't forget the WBO Middleweight Championship coming up in our main event as Lonnie Bradley defends his title against Simon Brown. This has been a good fight out.
And Velasquez comes out here going back to the body, and that's how he pushed Little against the rope. So he has said to himself, I've got to get back to that body attack if I'm going to win this bout, and hopefully I can land the legal ones.
And some numbers from round 9.
Steve Little coming back and performing a little better, getting a few more punches in, and he out-jabbed Velasquez 12-4 in that round, which is important for him because that helps make his attack go.
This fight took a little bit of a turn after round 5 when Velasquez lost a point for a low blow. He's had to concentrate his attack a little bit more upstairs than maybe he would have liked to have. Al, what does your scorecard say?
Well, I end up with Little ahead by 2 points, and the primary reason, of course, he was aided by a point that was deducted from Velasquez, so you could make the case otherwise you'd only be 1 point ahead, and it's just a very close bout here.
Little fighting in his hometown. That makes it even tougher for Velasquez.
We have not seen so much of the left hook from Steve Little in the last couple rounds. Remember, he was so dominant with that early in the bout.
Although we have seen local favorites beaten here on ESPN. Earlier this year, Bronco McCart beaten in Monroe, Michigan.
Lost his WBO title.
Now, what does Velasquez have to do to get back into a rhythm and make up that deficit that at least you and I see?
Well, he's done two things in this round already. He went to the body more. He stepped up the attack with his jab. And I think he's generally having a fairly good round here in the 10th. Throws in the hook for good measure, which we haven't seen too much of from him. Steve Little has not been as aggressive in this round or as consistent in his effort. There's the jab from Little, which they've been urging him to use, and he did in the last round very effectively.
Little not landing any of those punches.
Right, but of course the crowd responding, and whether that'll have an impact on the judges remains to be seen.
For Velasquez's sake, he hopes the judges did not respond like the crowd. Closing seconds of round 10, scheduled for 12, Little and Velasquez. Steve Little trying to win the vacant WBC super middleweight title in his hometown against Joaquin Velasquez, the IBC's vacant title. And Al, very, very close fight.
It is indeed. There's been an ebb and a flow. The last round, I thought Velasquez came on and did the things that had been effective for him earlier, working the body and jabbing more. And the work that they said they've done on him for his outside style looks like it has paid off to some degree, because he's in there against a very good outside boxer in Steve Little.
And I would think in these last two rounds, Velasquez, knowing that he's in at least a close fight and fighting in the other guy's hometown, would need to really step it up.
And I'm sure they sent him out to do that, and he has certainly thrown a lot more punches early in this round. Velasquez has been KO'd 4 times in his career, but all of those have come inside the first 4 rounds. Once he gets his rhythm and gets going at a bout, he's a tough man to get out of there. And of course, Little has very little history of scoring knockouts, so you can look for this one to go the distance.
Yeah, other than that 10-round knockout, all of Little's knockouts have come within the first 4 rounds. And as you mentioned, since he only has 5, they come few and far between. His last knockout was 5 years ago. Enough said.
Yeah, and that's why it was so shocking to see him come out so aggressively, and I think he did hurt Velasquez early. But again, Velasquez was able to get into the rhythm of this bout. Now, Little has been very inactive in this round. Allowed Velasquez to dictate the tempo here. It's pretty early for Steve Little to think he can get into his prevent defense and win this bout. I don't care where he's fighting.
Prevent defense usually prevents you from losing.
That's true in football.
Well, I'm just getting ready for NFL Countdown on Sunday.
That's right.
On ESPN.
With all our pals, Chris Berman, Joe Theismann.
11:30 a.m. start time. Now I get 90 minutes of NFL action.
More is better in this case. Also, Tom Jackson on that show, Mortensen,
Joe Theismann,
and Sterling Sharp, I believe. We got them all in. I hope they plug us as much as we just plugged them. This has been a round, and a curious round in a way, because both men probably need to be aggressive, and neither are being that aggressive, although I think Velasquez has done more work in this round. But certainly, as you pointed out, Bob, you don't want to leave things to chance when you're boxing a guy in his hometown.
Especially a guy who helped stage the promotion.
Yes, that would be a good point, even more so. But there's the Velasquez jab, and I think Little has done so little in this round that I think Velasquez probably won it.
But it's close.
Yeah.
Round number 11 in the books. We take you to the corner of Steve Little.
You went right out there and did it. So you want to do the same thing again this round, see? You know what I'm saying? But when you go over, champ, when you make that move in, you got to shake that hook. See, you made one of the pretty slip. You went over here, but you wouldn't throw the hook. You slipped over here, but you wouldn't throw it. As you go over here, you got to dig that hook, man. I don't care if it's to the body or where. You got to dig.
Round, Stevie, how you feel?
Good.
Touch him clean, man.
All right, bro. You understand? You got to dig that, champ. When you make that move, slip that punch, you got to make it big, champ. Take deep breath. Take deep breath. Give him some water, champ. All right. But you got to make him miss and make him pay, champ. Come on, give him some. Come on, champ. Come on, move on.
Well, the pep talk for Steve Little. Is he 3 minutes away from winning the vacant IBC Super Middleweight Championship? Joaquin Velasquez and Little touch gloves. A very tight fight. Velasquez, he may need a knockout.
Well, it's very close in our minds, certainly.
And a slip for Velasquez, despite what the crowd would like. I have Little ahead by 2 points, but it's a shaky 2 points because there are so many close rounds.
And I think I have this bout dead even. And in fact, the total numbers in this bout, Velasquez has landed 256 punches. Little has landed 249, and there it is. So you can see how close this bout is.
This is one bout. If it ends in a draw, you can almost make a case for it. Well, the numbers make a case for it.
Good hook. Now there's the hook. They told Steve Little in between rounds, you've gotten away from throwing that hook, which he has, and it will work for you. And they were right, because he's throwing it, he's landing it.
And every time Velasquez tries to throw that right hand, Little has the opportunity to throw that hook.
I wonder how this bout would have turned out had Little continued to walk in on the inside and crank that punch up. He might have made this a much easier bout for himself.
Midway point of the 12th and final round, and don't forget, in round 5, Velasquez had a point taken away. That could be a championship point for Joaquin Velasquez.
Steve Little, who was once a champion, lost that championship to Frank Lyles, would like to get a shot at it again. For him, the verdict in this bout, very important. At 31 years of age, he can't afford to stumble. For Velasquez, even just this performance against Little keeps him in the hunt for some good fights, but he would dearly love to get the W.
You see the time remaining in this 12th and final round. Velasquez saying, come on, let's go. And he lands a left hand to the head of Little. Can he do more? He's got 30 seconds, a right hand.
Velasquez trying to pull this out with the rally. And remember, Little did very well in the beginning part of this round. So this is this bout in microcosm, Bob. Ebbs and flows, both men getting it done in spurts.
Joaquin Velasquez took the fight on about 10 days' notice. He has made a great showing. Has he done enough to beat Steve Little in Little's hometown? The vacant IBC Super Middleweight title on the line, and there's the bell as Velasquez lands a parting shot. Little thinks he's a winner.
And I believe that Steve Little probably won the last round and thus probably won this bout. It might be scored in a more dramatic fashion for him. He certainly feels he won, and the Velasquez people are not
Ladies and gentlemen, before the official...
That could be lobbying, too, by
Sure.
Steve Little. But I do think he won a very close decision here. Still a very good performance by Velasquez, who came in here, as you said, on only 10 days' notice and performed, I thought, very well.
Don't forget it.
He was able to box well from the inside or the outside and occasionally get the job done inside.
Our main event coming up, Lonnie Bradley against Simon Brown for Bradley's WBO Middleweight Championship. That's our main event on ESPN's Championship Boxing. And right now hanging in the balance, the vacant IBC Super Middleweight
Holy
crown.
Spirit. Amen. Amen. Get it. Amen. All the praise to God.
Steve Little hoping he's a winner.
He's very confident, apparently, to this point that he is. They're taking a while to get the scorecards tallied up, and that usually indicates a close bout.
Believe it or not, when I added up my score, I actually had Little winning by 3.
Which is not out of the question, because there were a lot of close rounds.
And maybe that yell we heard from Little was the fact that he might have a hand injury.
Two-time world champion.
Apparently somewhere along the line, that right hand.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Shout out to Eddie Murphy.
Take a look at some final numbers, Al.
we take a peek and we see that Little 271 landed. I don't know, that's got to be a little off because that was not the edge that we had earlier. But Velasquez landed more, so it's closer than that, folks. It's about a 10 or 15 punch difference.
Well, Joaquin Velasquez waiting out the decision. Steve Little also waiting. And here is our ring announcer, Mark Biro.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a unanimous decision. Judge George Hill scores it 117-110. Judge Tony Wolf scores it 118-109. And Judge Larry Hazard Jr. scores it 119-108 to the winner and IBC Super Middleweight Champion of the world, Steve Little.
Not a shock that Steve Little was a winner, but a shock at how wide the scores were by the judges. When you take a look at our final CompuBox stats, Velasquez outlanded Little 274 to 271. Our graphic was wrong. The real numbers were only a 3-point difference.
Well, and I did feel that Little won by a point. You thought he won by 3. That is not inappropriate. However, the total margin of the scores, truthfully, I think is inappropriate.
118-109, 117-110, and 119-108. A little wide, but we'll hear from the new IBC Super Middleweight Champion, Steve Little, after this. ESPN's Championship Boxing is brought to you by Budweiser, brewery fresh taste guaranteed. And by the more than 1,400 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. Steve Little, a unanimous winner, the IBC's new super middleweight champion. He's standing by with Al Bernstein. Al?
We've got a happy group here in the ring. That is Steve Little, and with him his wife, Iwanda, and his group celebrating a win. First, let's talk about the only bad thing that happened here, and that is your right hand got hurt.
Yes, very strong Latino fighter. I know they're all strong. Normally, they have sensational bodies. They're not developed well, but they can't take a really good shot to the head. And I worked on the head, and I injured myself early, but my ring savvy got me through.
Now, you were throwing, ironically, it was the left hook that you were doing well early. You kind of stopped throwing that punch, so in your corner reminded you, and it worked in later rounds.
Yes, what I had done was we had practiced so much offensively with the right hand that when I went to look for the left hand, I'd forgotten about it. And that's what coaches and cornermen are about, bringing things to mind.
Now, a lot of emotion here. You're fighting before your home crowd. You were instrumental in bringing this bout here. How hard was it for you to focus mentally on this bout?
Well, all things are possible if you ask in the name of Jesus Christ and let God direct you. But it was a lot of hard work. Things worked out well. I'm champion of the world, and I'm thankful, Al.
Now, what about another title shot? I know you'd like to get back after Frank Lyles, perhaps, who you lost your title to, and some of the other titles, which are a little more highly regarded. What are your plans along those lines?
I just want to tell the world that Don King is one of the greatest promoters in the world. He gave me an opportunity to be champion of the world, and that's what I displayed tonight, the fact that I could be a champion. Everyone had wrote me off, but I'm back. The only problem I have is getting to the plate and getting some money. I stand up and I bat well, but when it comes to the final count, Little has less.
All right, well, we're in a AAA ballpark tonight. Maybe you'll be in the major leagues, stepping up to the plate soon.
I'm hoping.
Steve Little gets the job done here tonight. Let's go back to Bob Pop at ringside.
Steve Little, a winner, the IBC Super Middleweight Championship, the WBO main event. Coming up next, Brown and Bradley.